Welcome to New York Got Game.
Welcome back to another edition of New York Got Game. A lot going on in the world of New York basketball. The Liberty are inching closer to their first ever WNBA title as they are back in the W Finals. They've made it for the second year in a row. Obviously, last year they did not win. They are trying to do that this year, and we will see if they can do it. A lot to break down with the Liberty on this episode. Also, the Knicks wrapping up training camp in Charleston, South Carolina. They played their first preseason game. We're also going to talk some Knickerbockers basketball. So a very special episode. Even though we're doing the thing remote this week, we're talking Liberty, we're talking Knicks. Let's get right to it. The New York Liberty are going back to the WNBA Finals. They wrap things up in the semifinal round on Sunday in Game 4 with a win over the Aces, who they fell last year in the WNBA Finals too. So we're going to talk about the Liberty on this show. We do not know who they're going to play yet. That is still yet to be determined, but we got to talk about the Liberty and them reaching the finals in back-to-back years. And joining me to do that is one of the great voices around women's basketball, around the Liberty. She does a tremendous job in podcasting, social content, everything she does. She's been on New York Got Game with me before, and now she's back. Her name is Gigi Speer. She joins me now. Gigi, how you doing?
Oh, Dexter, I'm doing great. I feel like I could run through a brick wall after your introduction pretty much every time, too. So thank you for having me.
Look, I'm always a pleasure when I see you. Always a pleasure to talk to you as well, too. So thank you for joining me here. I mean, I know you got to be excited about this Liberty run. This has been tremendous this season, and now we're here at the W Finals. This is where we are. But I got to ask you about the Game 4 against the Aces, because the Liberty knew what they had to do. They're up 2-1. They had lost in Game 3. They had to close it out. What were your major takeaways from their closeout win in Game 4 against the Aces?
One of the biggest takeaways I had was also one of my biggest worries heading into the game, and that was, okay, do they have the want to finish out this series and this season? And they answered back so well, and in a way where it's, you're winning in Las Vegas. This is something that Vegas did to you last year in the finals. And they keep saying they still haven't done anything yet. Job's not finished. And all of the momentum that we kind of saw be taken out of them in Game 3, they put back in for themselves in Game 4. But it was a fight. It was not easy. These are two of the best teams in the WNBA, regardless of what any stat will tell you or record will tell you. If you think about the Vegas Aces versus the New York Liberty, you have to know it's a head-to-head matchup that will be a bloodbath, and it was. So I think the Liberty really responded well in controlling their pace after the first quarter. They saw some miscues on defensive boards, things that you just can't really have happen at this point in the season, and they kept picking it up. And my God, do they have some good players. Breanna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu showing out, but of course some help from Jonquel Jones and Leonie Fibich, even though they got into some foul trouble. So I saw them have a lot of want to, and I saw them make adjustments as the game went on in a way that I don't think they would have done last year, and that's why it was taken for them in the finals last year.
Yeah, you got to have that want to, and you're right. You can see that this is a different team than last year. They talked about it. You know this from the top of the year. They were on a mission. They wanted to get this done. They wanted to get back to this place. They obviously wanted to win the first title in franchise history. And like you said, been hearing this from the players, whether it's Sab, whether it's been Stewie, they keep saying, hey, we haven't won anything. We haven't done anything yet. And with that being said, you know, you always hear this, postseason's another game, right, Gigi? You got to step your game up. And we've seen the team step their game up. Do you think the Liberty has what it takes to raise their game to another level, to get 3 more wins and win the whole thing? Do you think they have what it takes? You've been very impressed with them, but is there another level they can go to?
I 100% think there's another level they can go to, and we see them go to that another level when they're playing at home. So I think we're going to see their next series has to be a new look for the New York Liberty. The first 2 games, it wasn't an easy win for them, but it was much easier when they were playing at home. Game 3, you saw how much the away crowd could get to them, especially the players like Sabrina, who was held to 4 points in Game 3 when they finally went out to the West Coast. So I do think that they still have room to grow from transitioning from the home court to playing away. We all know it's a whole different thing in the postseason, first of all, but then postseason against a rival, that's so hard. And both of these teams that they could end up facing have been rivals for them and battles for them all season long. They are winless against the Lynx this year, I believe, and also against the Sun. It's not been easy. And they were a team that they just barely pushed them out of the W semifinals last year. So they have a long history with both of these two teams. And when they are playing on the road against them, they're going to have to step that game up. And the way I'm going to be looking for it in games 3 and game 4, if that is necessary in the finals round, is do they let the big moments get to them? Is Leonie Fibic and Jonquel Jones, are they going to be in foul trouble again and have to be taken out and have their minutes restricted in a way Sandy Brondello had to restrict them today? We'll see. That's something I'm going to be looking for, not letting the moment get too big to them, especially if they do play the Lynx, because they've struggled against them all season long.
Yeah, the Lynx were a struggle. They did beat them once. They did beat them one time this year. They did lose 3 out of the 4, and that's if you include the Commissioner's Cup. So you get one win against them, and you kind of hit on where I wanted to go next, because Lynx versus Sun, that series is still going on. That is going to go to a game 5, to winner take all, to decide who goes to the WNBA Finals. So we don't know, as of the time of recording this, who the Liberty are going to play in the finals. But when you look at both of these teams, and you said it hasn't been easy, the Liberty, they've had the Suns' number. They've really played them well over the last 2 seasons. They knocked them out of the postseason last year. The Lynx have had their number. So who do you think is the better matchup here for the Liberty in the finals? Do you want to see them play the Sun, or do you want to see them play the Lynx? I mean, let me take this again, because who we want to see them play and who's the better matchup for them could be 2 different things, right? Or you might want to see them play the tougher matchup. So tell me both. Who do you want to see them play, and who do you think is the better matchup for them in the finals?
I think they're complete opposite answers. Of course, I want to see them play the Lynx. I would love to see Coach of the Year, Coach Reeve, pull out her best stuff against the Liberty and see how they respond to it. And also to see them try and get one more win. You mentioned they have 1 win against them all season long, and losing in the Commissioner's Cup to them too. I think that is just so tough. So I want to see them play the Lynx. I want to see them bounce back from that and see if they can respond to Nafisa Collier. She's so good. She has every tool in the toolbox. She's such a good player. I think it would be great to see a matchup between her and Stewie specifically as well. But I think that they match up best with the Connecticut Sun. And it may be a level of comfortability. Jonquel she comes from playing with them, playing with Dewana, playing with AT, and now she'll be playing against them. So sometimes that's hard. You could have these players, they know exactly what tools you have in your toolbox, so they could kind of anticipate and guard you well. But I just think that when they play against the Sun, it's exciting. They still have that little rivalry from last year in the semifinals, like you mentioned. But I do think it would be a harder matchup for them against the Lynx. So for that reason, I'm sorry to all the Liberty fans out there. I did want a game 5 against the Aces. No other Liberty fan wanted that. And I also do want to see them play the Lynx, and I don't think any Liberty fan wants that either.
So as a member of the media, I feel the same way. I think the better basketball matchup that I want to see, because I just want to see them tested against a team that's really pushed them, is Minnesota. So I'm with you on that. I do think the Sun are the better matchup for them if you want them to. I don't want to say it's cruise or be easy, because I don't want to be disrespectful to the Sun, but I'm with you. I think it's the better matchup for the Liberty, but I also want to see them tested. And I think Lynx versus Liberty would be a fantastic series that I think will go 5. We'll get into all those predictions later, but I think it will be a fantastic series for sure. Wanted to ask you this, a couple more before I let you go. Sabrina Ionescu and Breanna Stewart, they are the Liberty's 2 best players. They have played extremely well throughout these playoffs, especially Sab. Sab, you can maybe argue, has been their best player throughout the playoffs. Do you think both of those stars have to take their game to another level? You know, I asked you about the team overall raising their level of play when we talked at the top of this conversation, but do you think those stars need to get to a even another level to bring this home for the Liberty?
I think that I want to answer this in a way where it's like more of a coaching mindset, where if I'm the coach for Breanna Stewart, I'm going, give us all you got, do whatever you can. And that includes diving on the floor for loose balls. Like she did throughout the game today. That was something that impressed me. She not only had 19 points today, she also had 14 boards, 5 assists, and she also picked all of those up so quickly. So she kind of was setting the tone for the Liberty. So if I'm Coach Brondell, I'm going, Stewie, go touch the ball as much as possible. On the other hand, though, with Sab, I'm saying, all right, let's slow down. Let's simplify it as much as we can for you so you don't have the pressure to go off and shoot 5 threes and make 5 threes in a game. I want to make the game as simple for Sab. And if that means in the first half, I'm establishing her more as a decoy and letting her run around and be more pass first mentality rather than looking for the shot. I do always want her head towards the basket, though, because her, even just a pump fake, anybody's diving out to defend that. We know that. So it's a tale of two cities in a way, in that way, where with Sabrina, you kind of want her to relax a little bit more. She's much younger. She also has not won a championship yet, so she's super hungry. So let's corral her back in a little bit. But with Stewie, let her fly. Let her do whatever she needs to or thinks she needs to in that moment. Because if she gets going, that is such a scary sight.
Yeah, and I think we knew how great she was last year winning MVP. Stewie, I'm talking about. But this year, Sandy Brondello, I think, has done a fantastic job of, resting her, bringing her along so she wasn't as burnt out. And that speaks to the depth that we've seen from the Liberty all season, which has been, I think, really the thing that propelled them to have the best record in the league and to be able to be so efficient in this playoff run. So last thing for me, and this kind of goes to this. Liberty, they're 5-1 in the postseason. They looked really good. They had the best record in the regular season, Gigi. And earlier when I had you on with me, when you were in studio early in the season, I asked you, can they win it all? And you said yes. And I think we're past that question, obviously, now because they're back in the W finals. The real question is that I have for you, whether they play the Lynx, whether they play the Sun, is will they win it all? What do you say to that, Gigi Speer? Will they win it all or not? What do you say?
Dex, I'm saying when I leave my house every day, I see someone with a Liberty hoodie on. The Liberty have infected this city with some basketball greatness. I think a championship is due in New York. I can't predict the future, but I can say I would be shocked if the Liberty do not win it all this year, especially after playing one of the hardest opponents in the Aces and beating them on the road. So I'll say the Liberty will win it all. I'll give you a definite answer, even though it's really hard to do that. But
okay,
I'll go with that for sure.
Okay. I like that. Going with the fact that the Liberty will win it all. Well, we will see if they do. We have to see first who they play. Will it be Connecticut? Will it be Minnesota? It'll be very interesting to see how that goes down. That is the wonderful Gigi Speer, always doing a great job talking women's hoops with me, joining me here on New York Got Game. Gigi, I appreciate you. Thank you for coming through. I know we had to do this remote, but I appreciate you so much. And I will talk to you and also see you during the W Finals.
I'll see you Thursday. Thank you, Dex. Appreciate you.
The Knicks are heating up.
All right, now joining me to talk some Knicks basketball is Stefan Bondy, Knicks beat writer for the New York Post, who joins me now. The Knicks, Steph, as we record this, they just finished their first preseason game against the Hornets. They won 111-109, if anybody cares that they actually won. But Steph, how you doing?
I'm good, man. And you know what? You're right. Not many people care about the result of the preseason game, but this one actually had a fun ending for this reason. The Charlotte Hornets had a chance to win the game, but Dwayne Washington Jr. was fouled on a 3-pointer. He's on the Hornets now. Mm-hmm. He had a chance to, for three free throws to win the game. He missed all three. And there was a joke on Press Row that this is payback. He's paying the Knicks back for giving him all this money for nothing because he was part of the Karl Anthony Towns trade, and he basically had to be given a guaranteed contract only to make that trade happen. And here he is at the free throw line, losing the game for the Hornets and winning it for the Knicks. So there you go.
Man, you thought he'd be happy for the fact he got his guaranteed contract. But here he is.
Well, he was. He helped the Knicks out.
He helped
The
him.
Knicks
He was,
helped him.
okay, so he was so happy he helped him out.
Yeah.
Got you.
There you go.
Got you.
There you go.
I see how it goes.
I told the story so bad you didn't get it, but that's what I was getting at.
No, you're a fantastic storyteller, so I'll never say that. So, Steph, in this first preseason game, right, for Tom Thibodeau, we saw the starting five. We saw Karl-Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, and Jalen Brunson. Should Knicks fans get used to that starting five? Is that the starting five that we will see opening night against Boston?
That's what it looks like right now. It was predictably a little choppy. I mean, these guys have never played before together. I am concerned. This isn't a big concern yet. They played like 15. They played as many as 15 minutes apiece. So this sample size is really minuscule. But if you look at the shot distribution, it went about as you'd expect. And when you go down the line of who's taking all these shots, it's going to be Karl-Anthony Towns, it's going to be Jalen Brunson. And a guy like Josh Hart went scoreless on 2 shots. And, Mikal Bridges only had, I think 5 shots. And OG Anunoby only had like 4 shots. So I do wonder how much they're going to stagger these guys, because I think a lot of these players, especially Mikal Bridges, he's very capable of scoring on his own, as he's shown in Brooklyn. And I think, he's going to have to have opportunities to, run an offense to really maximize how good he is on that end. So, although I do think this is going to be the starting lineup moving forward, I think that Tibbs is going to figure out better ways to stagger the minutes, because we didn't really see that today. It was the starting unit basically playing with each other. There was a tiny bit of staggering, and then the entire second unit coming in.
All right, so hopefully we'll see, depending on what Tibbs does, how this looks with the rotation and minutes for everybody in the starters as we go along through the preseason. I want to ask you specifically about one player in the starting lineup. That's Karl-Anthony Towns, because everybody is intrigued about him and his fit now here with the Knicks. What did you make of him? And I know it's limited minutes. He played 15 minutes, but what did you make of how he played and what you saw from him against the Hornets?
Well, I mean, my first impression was, I've never seen a center do this before on the Knicks. Mitchell Robinson's not throwing up 27-footers. I mean, Karl-Anthony Towns' first shot was a step-back three-pointer. He missed it, but then the next shot was a 27-foot three-pointer, which he did nail. This is a totally different dynamic than any other Tibbs team we've seen since he's gotten here. Mitchell Robinson is not allowed to handle the ball as much as Karl-Anthony Towns is, and he's certainly not allowed to take step-back three-pointers. So that was my first impression, is how is this all going to work? Obviously they have a lot of kinks that they have to work out, but he is what you expected him to be and what he's been throughout his career. He's a top flight 3-point shooter. He's going to space the floor. There's still those question marks we've talked about ad nauseum about the rim protection and the rebounding. I think all that stuff has to be worked out. But my first impression is he's very skilled with the ball. He's good at passing. I saw that today as well, and he's not afraid to take the shot.
Not afraid.
Yes. And here's another thing: post-game locker room T-shirt. He was wearing 1999 NBA Finals, Latrell Sprewell against Tim Duncan. So that was pretty cool.
Well, you know what? Knicks fans are going to appreciate that. They like the throwback reference there. I mean, we appreciate it too because of our age. But yeah. Knicks fans will appreciate that as well.
I went to Kat. I said, "There's no way you remember that, right?" And he was like, "No, I was 4 years old." And I'm like, "Man, I'm old, man."
Yes, that all made me feel very old there. That made me feel very old. I got to ask you also, Steph, about Landry Shamet. Shot the ball well in this game, 4 of 8 against the Hornets. I know it's just preseason, but where is he in terms of making this final roster? Is he a lock to make this final roster?
Yeah, I mean, barring the unforeseen, I mean, they still have to play 4 more preseason games, but barring the unforeseen and injuries and anything can happen, but he certainly is cementing his status as on a final roster spot. The Knicks have 2 roster spots that they have to fill, but due to the apron restrictions, one of those spots is going to either go to a rookie or a conversion from a 2-way contract. And the other one, right now looks like it's going to Landry Shamet. I mean, he's been, touted by Tom Thibodeau from the very beginning of camp. Tom, basically told us that this guy's going to be part of the second unit. And then he was part of that group that came in it was Cam Payne, it was Miles Bridges, it was Precious Achiuwa, Jericho Sims. and I'm missing someone because I'm drawing a blank, but that was the second unit. And Landry Shamet played well, and he was a big part of it.
There you go. Landry Shamet playing well. Looks like he will make this roster. Of those other guys you saw playing that got some major minutes, Precious Achiuwa, Miles McBride, what did you think of what you saw from those guys and what their roles will be? I know Miles McBride was the first guy off the bench against the Hornets. Mm-hmm. What do you think their roles are going to be in terms of the bench going forward?
Well, Miles McBride, you mentioned he was the first guy off the bench. I think he's the going to be the sixth man there. He's shown a lot of confidence. Listen, Miles McBride took a huge step forward last season, a step forward that not a lot of people thought he had in him. I mean, he was a really bad three-point shooter his first two seasons, and he came in and he upped that percentage up in a dramatic way. And the question is, how much bigger of a leap can he take this year? If he can take the kind of leap that he took from year 2 to 3 and translate that to from 3 to 4, we're looking at a guy who, is going to be a very important contributing part of a team that has championship aspirations. I think, because of his salary, he's a guy who's being coveted around the league. He's viewed as the top trade piece for the Knicks, but the Knicks held on to him. Obviously, they were involved in a lot of negotiations this summer. They purposely held on to Miles McBride, and he's going to be an important part of what they're doing. And he has a lot of confidence. I mean, he went out there and he was hitting his shots. He was all over the place. I thought he played a really good game.
All right, Miles McBride looking confident. We'll see what he can do this year. Expected to have a major role, sixth man off the bench for this team. Last thing for me, Steph, you've been with the team through training camp. Now we're in preseason. They've got 4 more games to play, 5 total in the preseason. What's the vibe with this team? Because there's so much change. 2 new starters, kind of a new energy, but there's a lot of expectations. So what's the vibe you're sensing around talking to everybody around the team with the Knicks right now?
Well, I think that the locker room was really upbeat after the game. And there were reasons why there could, be a little bit upset about the way they played. Tom Thibodeau, if anybody was upset, it was Tom Thibodeau. And I don't mean to say upset, but he was concerned. I mean, there were his comment was there are things we did good and things we did bad, and it was choppy like I expected, and we need to do a lot of work. And he mentioned communication as being an issue. I think the locker room was really positive. There was a lot of joking going on in there. You could see the dynamic between the former Suns guys, because you remember Mikal Bridges was teammates with Shamet, and he was teammates with Campaign, and you can see that there's a friendship and a dynamic there. And Karl Anthony Towns was teammates at one point with Warren. So I think that there are built-in friendships beyond just the Villanova stuff. And I do see right now a good locker room. It's preseason game number 1, but
right.
From what I'm seeing, it's looking like a group that can get along.
All right. Hey, chemistry, getting along, it does help. It does help.
Yeah.
It is preseason game number 1. We're not going to go crazy with it, but it does help. Everybody, that is Stefan Bondy joining me here this week on New York Got Game. Steph will be joining me every week here on the show. We'll break down some stuff with Knicks basketball. The vibes are good right now. Preseason game number 1. We'll see how it is as we get closer to the season. Appreciate you, Steph. Thanks, man.
All right, man.
The Knicks are heating up.
So we wait to see this week who the Liberty will play in the W Finals. I'm excited for that because I'll be at the games at the Barclays Center. That is starting on Thursday. Should be a good one. Whether they play the Sun or whether they play the Lynx, I think it'll be a fantastic matchup to see who gets the crown as the W basketball season comes to an end. The Knicks, they roll on with the preseason. Another game for them on Wednesday. They've got 4 more left. We'll see how things shape up with the roster, the rotation. Hopefully the team stays healthy. We'll get more into the Knicks and Nets in the coming weeks as we inch closer to the start of the 2024-2025 NBA regular season. Special thanks to my guest, Gigi Speer, talking Liberty with me this week. Also, thanks to my guest, who you'll see a lot coming up more on this show, the great Stefan Bondy, beat writer for the New York Post. I'm Dexter Henry. Got to give the thanks to my producer, Brian Wachowski, my editor, Catherine Cooper, and for those guys and everybody who makes the show as great as it is. I'm Dexter Henry. We'll catch you next time on New York Got Game.
And thanks for watching New York Got Game. Boom shakalaka.